Love you.
I love you, Mom.
I love you too. And that's
How
going.
did this happen, Mama?
This happened because we stood up to a judge.
The Officer Kidd with Tulsa PD, Terwilliger,
Officer Gouldy and Officer Thompson.
And what
and
about the undercover guy?
I actually don't know his name. I've never worked with him before. He's a Claremore PD detective. That's all I know.
Thank you so much. My name is Jessica Saxon. I'm a civil rights advocate and litigator from Washington, D.C., and I'm here to provide a notice to Claremore City Council today. This is in accordance with USCS Rules of Civil Procedure, as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20 of the United States Supreme Court. The Constitution for the United States of America is the overarching requirements that all states must follow. I don't think anyone here would disagree with that. States are not able to enact their own alternative legislation in substitution for the guarantees of the Constitution. That would mean that the state laws are in fact more powerful than the Constitution. Clause 1 of Amendment 5 states that no person should be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment by a grand jury. However, the state of Oklahoma unfortunately has enacted its own alternative legislation that permits prosecuting attorneys and police officers to charge by way of information as opposed to indictment. That is unlawful. An emolument violation is when you pay public officials to commit a crime. There are two areas that the Constitution reinforces. One is Article 1, Section 10. This states that no state shall create a law that shall impair the obligations of contracts. So police officers, prosecutors, and judges are all under a contract to perform based on their oath or affirmation that they have sworn to uphold and defend the Constitution. When states enact their own laws and direct their agents to disobey that law, that is, which is the Constitution of the United States, that would be a direct violation of Article 1, Section 10. The 14th Amendment is the other place that you'll find this issue, where it says that no state shall create or enforce any law that shall abridge the privileges and immunities of the United States citizens. Privileges and immunities of the United States citizens are at a minimum those that are enumerated in the Bill of Rights and the first 10 amendments. They are unable to be impaired. The state of Oklahoma, unfortunately, has enacted its own inferior constitution that is permitting public officials whom you all pay to violate the Constitution of the United States. As a result, there's an inordinate amount of people currently imprisoned in the state of Oklahoma unlawfully and unconstitutionally. Panama Downing is litigating this at the United States Supreme Court on behalf of more than 700,000 people that are currently imprisoned here in America unconstitutionally. I am here to provide notice to you today that if you continue to pay public officials to break the law, that criminal sanctions can come from that. We don't want to go down that path. I don't think anyone does. Nonetheless, we must make officials aware that you cannot continue to pay people, public officials, to disobey the law. That is an emolument violation. It is illegal. It is unconstitutional, and it's a crime. So I'm asking you, honorable individuals, today, if you'll please take a look at Clause 1, Amendment 5. Confirm that what I'm saying is true. Thank you. I need to provide this for the record.
If you'll leave it with the clerk, so.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So my name is Claremore Downing. I'm the civil rights advocate and litigator that Ms. Saxon was just referring to. I want to provide just a little bit of clarification for you guys, so that you guys can, understand why we're here and what we're doing, because I imagine it might be a little confusing at the moment. I have roughly 32,000 criminal or affidavits on behalf of affected victims here in the state of Oklahoma. Many are right here within Claremore. And so when a state creates a law that's contrary to Constitution, that is unconstitutional. We have to recognize the fact the Constitution of the United States is the overarching requirements that every state must follow. No state has the authority to create its own alternative legislation and substitute it for the heritage Constitution, just to make Ms. Saxon said. So when a state does do that, and then they direct their agents, the prosecuting attorneys, police officers, to obey that inferior law, then a crime is committed. It's called deprivation of rights under color of law. So these affidavits that I have, they're called prima facie evidence for a per se crime. These are per se crimes because we don't have to prove that these public officials intended to breach their obligation simply by virtue of the breach of the constitutional obligation. All elements of crime have been met because their willfulness and knowledge derives from the promise they make. If you make a promise to a public official, you fail to fulfill that promise, we don't have to prove that you intended to do it because your willfulness and knowledge derives from that. So the prima facie evidence is more than sufficient to establish the per se crime. We're not trying to get anybody into trouble. Don't get us wrong here. We're not here if we want people to get in trouble. We're here because we want you guys to understand that this is happening, and it's happening prolifically across the state of Oklahoma. There are thousands of people right now currently in prison in Oklahoma on direct facial constitutional violations because the state didn't follow the very basic procedures and processes enumerated codified in the Constitution for all to see. That is a facial constitutional violation. It makes those convictions void without force or effect. I'm not saying these are good people. I'm not saying these are lawful people. I'm saying these were rightful people, and we need to make sure that we give them the rights that they're guaranteed and were promised by the birthright codified in the Constitution. Now, one last thing that I'd like to say here is that conspiracy with regard to public officials, what it says is that any person who, having knowledge of any of the wrongs conspired to be done, and who have the power to prevent or aid in prevention of the commission of the same, neglects or refuses to do so, may be joined dispensing the action. So upon providing this notice to you guys, then you know that this is happening. You have a statutory obligation now to take action to either one, stop paying for these crimes to be committed, or two, confirm what we're saying, direct those agents after the constitutional manner.